Hey everyone, Coach Powers, and today I want to talk about ketamine. What about ketamine? Can ketamine help? You've probably heard about this. It's all over it's the talk, it's the talk of the times right now, and for good reasons. Ketamine is pretty amazing. And, ketamine has been on my radar for about 30 years. I'm not even kidding. For about 30 years. And it actually went back to artists that I knew and respected. And they were talking about how ketamine changed their life. And this is back, I'm talking 25, 30 years ago, before anything we know about it now, really. And I remember the attitudes being, it's a party drug back then. It's an animal tranquilizer, but people were using it and partying, as like some kind of, GHB or something to get high off of. And so that's how I thought of it. When I first heard the artist saying it changed their life, I was like, what are they talking about? Are they really serious? Are they being funny? Or they, and I kept hearing this. And then I read an interview with an artist I respected, and they were talking about how it literally changed their brain chemistry and pulled them out of a very dark, deep depression. And so I knew that had the power, that had this potential to do that. Same with psilocybin mushrooms and Amanita muscaria mushroom. Like this was something that was known. I can tell you that. It was very well known in kind of the underground. But 25 and 30 years ago, the internet wasn't what it is today. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all this information, the spread of knowledge like it is today, Facebook and all of this. So, it was almost like this certain quiet group of people knew about this type of stuff. You had your people that took ketamine to party and took psilocybin mushrooms to party. And then you had this other group that said, no, this stuff can like change your brain and your life. And then you had the, everyone else saying, you guys are all just trying to get high. It's a drug. It's an animal tranquilizer. It's a mushroom. Get over it. They thought it was like some kind of, just more of like the 60s or something nonsense. But, and not that the 60s was nonsense. I'm not saying that, but the attitudes. So fast forward now 25, 30 years, ketamine is the talk of the town, right? It's talk of the times right now. Everyone's, they're prescribing it. You can take it at home in pill form and intravenous, and, you can go to a clinic. You can, I don't know how much you guys know about this. If I'm not making this a infomercial for ketamine. I just want to talk about its potential. So you can learn a lot more about ketamine. So with a quick Google search, learn more about how it's administered and all of that. But I will say my experience with ketamine with my clients has been very positive. I've seen it be very, very positive, but more so for those with like treatment-resistant depression and things of that nature post-benzos. And I will say this, I've seen ketamine potentially be extremely beneficial. I mean, in days. I've had clients that were majorly depressed in the middle of their taper, started taking ketamine, in 1 week became different people. I mean, that's the thing about ketamine. When it works fast. 24 hours, 36 hours, 72, it's 72 hours. Like it can happen fast in a matter of days or weeks or hours even. And how it works is it regrows part of your brain. It's neuroplasticity. See, we're in the kind of the new neo-renaissance of mental health right now. We're just entering into it, I believe. And so we're starting to look at things, I wouldn't say differently, but really it's a callback to the old days. And these meds, SSRIs, all this stuff, it's not because you have a chemical imbalance. You just added more meds to the situation, and maybe they helped. But if you have a headache and you take an aspirin and it alleviates the headache, you don't say, well, it alleviated the headache because I had an aspirin imbalance, you see. Right? There's a lot of things that will help something. That doesn't mean you had an imbalance for it. SSRIs could be very helpful for depression. Then again, sometimes they can make depression worse. Benzos can be very helpful for anxiety and stress. Sometimes they can make it a lot worse, right? Ketamine seems to be one that really doesn't have too much of a side effect or anything. I mean, some people say that, if you take too much of it, they don't like that feeling of sedated, or it's kind of like having a tooth procedure or something, you feel a little bit out of it. Sometimes in the lighter version, you're not so much at all. Maybe like a mild, like you feel like tired, like a mild buzz. But I haven't seen anyone have any real problems. Like I don't recall working with anyone that said I tried ketamine and I ended up in the ER or something crazy. No. What I have seen though is a lot of cases where ketamine just wasn't very effective. And I will say this, I have found a reason for this. I think there's a couple. For one, benzo withdrawal, right? It's, it's more for depression, neuroplasticity. You're tapering off a drug. That should be understood. But also because the people that it wasn't very helpful for were either in the middle of a hellacious taper, or they were very, very high ruminators. So if you're listening to this and you've tried ketamine and it didn't work for you, ask yourself, were you really a high ruminator? Were you worrying a lot? Were you constantly barraged in your mind with the fear and the thought and locked in fight or flight? Because ketamine doesn't unlock fight or flight. It doesn't do that. It's a whole other process of the brain. I've been preaching this for almost a decade now in the benzo community, somehow still falling on deaf ears, that there's a lot more going on to this withdrawal than just what you think it is, what meets the eye. Right? So while ketamine can help neuroplasticity, it's not necessarily going to stop your brain from ruminating constantly and being afraid. Although the argument is, well, a lot of that happens as a lack of kind of shrinkage and things that needed to be repaired in the brain. Yes, ketamine can be very helpful for that again. So what I've seen is a mixed bag. I've seen people in the middle of a taper taking ketamine and having wonderful results. And I've seen people where it didn't really help them. And I've seen a lot more people post benzos that really got great turnabout, with ketamine. But again, the big obstacle, the big barrier has been that sort of trauma, fight or flight, rumination. That kind of that region there of symptoms and symptomology. That's been really the bigger predictor there. Another thing that helps with ketamine, that's helped similarly as ketamine, is just actual neuroplasticity building, which is something I teach in my program, and also psilocybin mushrooms, another one. We'll talk about that in another video, though. But for now, let me know what you think. Have you tried ketamine? Was it helpful? Was it not helpful? And, if you share, if it was helpful, was it during your benzo withdrawal, after your benzo withdrawal? I'd love to kind of spark a conversation about this so we can share information that might be helpful to others.